Weeks of extraordinary protests appear to have left Sri Lanka back with essentially the same leadership. The acting president is now the full-time president. He's been voted into power this morning by the ruling coalition in parliament. Protesters who had forced Sri Lanka's former president to flee last week and came close to bringing down the entire government, they could only watch from the front steps. Ishan Garg is back with us. He is on the story, watching things from Delhi. Listen, Ishan, there was an economic disaster that triggered this protest, unprecedented protest activity we've been reporting over the past couple of weeks. So tell us about these moves now and what kind of implications they're likely to have.
Well, the protests have been rather muted today, unfortunately. In the past few hours, there has been reports coming out of Sri Lanka that the protesters have not been protesting as they were just a few hours ago. And many experts say that's because they are still waiting to see if Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe is going to act on what he's already promised. He had told the people that he's going to curb the powers of the president and give more power back to the parliament, essentially imparting more power to the people. So we are seeing that the protests, which were of sizable amount just a few days ago, with protesters going into the president's house and occupying it, those protests have been rather muted. They were some protesters out in front of the presidential secretariat protesting, but in the past couple of hours, they have calmed down a bit. And many experts say that in the next few days, they could intensify because many see Ranil Wickremesinghe as an extension of the same Rajapaksa family, at least politically speaking. So it remains to be seen what happens in the next few days, but it all depends on what Mr. Wickremesinghe does. Does he come through on his promise of imparting more power to the people? Because if he does, then the protests should calm down.
So does it appear to you that the protesters will settle for what is essentially the same leadership, and what are the challenges that poses for the new president?
Well, it really depends, because the biggest challenge that Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe now faces is the massive debt that Sri Lanka has, nearly $50 billion, and he will have to work out some sort of deal with the International Monetary Fund and also with Sri Lanka's close allies like India and China, because economists say that all Sri Lanka needs right now is a bailout, and without it, it can't do much. And Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe will be the man responsible for negotiating a deal. And once that comes through, the economic hardships, once they are reduced, the people are also likely to like him a lot better. So that's going to be his number one challenge. But apart from that, in the very near term, there are still concerns about his stature in Sri Lankan politics, because he is seen as a kind of a shrewd political operative that many protesters do not really want to be in the position of the president. Many of them are also saying that he is going to be in power for the next two years. And before that, many of them are already demanding his resignation. So it's going to be an uphill battle for Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, but he will choose a new prime minister, and that will also decide if the people who are protesting against him, if they turn to his favor or not.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Ishan. Ishan Garg joining us from Delhi this morning.